Here, hold on, we need to get the energy right.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Luther, and I'm with the AGC of America. I'd like to welcome you to the 2024 AGC Convention and to today's session, Breaking Barriers, Maximizing Results, the competitive edge of lean construction and minority contracting. Now to introduce our presenter. Jennifer is the lean practice leader at Robbins & Morton with a tenure of 19 years, driving the evolution of the company's pioneering build-forward approach, grounded in lean philosophies. With a profound commitment to advancing healthcare construction, Jennifer is an esteemed author, a dynamic host of a weekly YouTube live stream, experienced speaker at the top-tier conferences including Lean Congress, National Association of Minority Contractors, and Healthcare Facility Symposium, and the recipient of the Dallas Business Journal 2023 Women in Business Award, a testament to her outstanding contributions in leadership. Her influential work spans thought leadership, bridging theory and practice to shape the industry's future while inspiring professionals to embrace their innovation and change. For the full bios of all of our speakers, please view the 2024 convention app. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Lacey and our wonderful panel of presenters.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. So before we get started, and we're going to let them do their intros because they do a better job than if I was trying to do it, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to set the stage for what we're going to talk about today. So AGC has their culture of care, and it is really focused on how are we treating people, how are we caring about people, and how are we bettering our industry. And then within lean construction, which all of us, that is what we live, that is how we show up, that is how we support and lead within our industry. The core of lean construction is respect for people. So the parallels and the integration of those two things are really easy for us, and sometimes they don't get communicated and celebrated very much. So today our focus is going to be, it does say minority contractors in our title, but we're really talking about minority contractors, smaller trades, even trade contractors that are coming in and coming on jobs, and like how are we integrating them into this lean philosophy. And so we're going to talk about both of those things today, and AGC's culture of care is just an easy umbrella that all of these things fall under. Keyan, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Keyan Zandy. I'm CEO of Skiles Group. We are a general contractor based in Dallas, Texas, licensed in 14 states, a little over 50 years old, focused primarily on healthcare construction.
My name is Felipe Engineer Manriquez. Engineer is part of my last name. It's not a mistake. Coincidentally, electrical engineer. I'm a project delivery services director at the Bolt Company. We're a national general contractor with over 20 offices, and we're about 130 years old. So a little bit older. We've been on a lean journey for over 20 years. And I'm also the host of the EBFC show, the Easier, Better for Construction podcast. So check that out if you like.
Thank you, sir. Henry Nutt, pre-construction executive for Southland Industries. We are a mechanical contractor nationally. I'm located in Northern California. We are celebrating our 75th year this year. I've been with Southland for 17 years and in the sheet metal industry for 35 years. And I'm an author. I'm on the board for LCI and been on the steering committee for D&I for AGC for the last 6 years, rolled off this year. So this conversation is very near and dear to my heart, so I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. So before we get started on the questions, which are very much focused on lean, can each of you really quick talk about what lean has meant to you in your career and maybe within your company? Like, how did you even get connected to lean? Felipe, you want to start?
Yeah, so I started as a recovering project manager, and I didn't even know I had a problem until after I had some education, and I realized working too hard, driving too hard, and it affected my health. And it was an intervention on somebody that had lean manufacturing experience, was speaking at a corporate conference and put some ideas forward to me that radically changed how I showed up and came to work. And those ideas were basic principles that we're going to focus on today, like respect for people. After that happened, it just changed my entire trajectory. I got onto a learning path, started reading books again after college, and I graduated as an electrical engineer. And I honestly did not read a book, did not read a blog, didn't even read a newspaper for 10 years because I was busy working 7 days a week, nights and weekends, and missing so many things with my family. After discovering those principles, everything changed, and now I'm out there practicing, and I call myself a practitioner, and I show up and help other people. That's why I blog, podcast, and just constantly talk about lean everywhere I go, like sometimes until midnight or later.
Henry, what about you? How did you get connected with it?
Interesting story for me. It was Southland has obviously was a founding member of LCI, and I had no choice but to get involved, right? So I was a superintendent, but I would go to meetings for lean construction and see owners and folks like myself, trade partners in these trainings. And I remember listening to architects, project managers, everybody but someone representing the trades in this room talking about how to better the trades. So I'm sitting there thinking, they're talking about my work and there's no representation of anyone. So I think, do I throw a tomato or do I get involved? For me, it was, they're trying the best they can. And if no one's in the room, what are we gonna do? So I decided to get in the room. And as a superintendent, I was able to help our teams develop and understand the value that they bring and why it was so important for them to be at the table talking about their work and how we're going to execute those things.
Awesome. Keyan?
Yeah, early in my construction journey, we were working on a multi-phase project and got behind schedule on the first phase. And I want to say me and my team probably worked 70 or 71 days straight to pull the project out of the ditch and get to the CO finish line. And I remember getting a bunch of phone calls, got a pat on the back from my project manager and attaboys from the client executive, and was acknowledged at the company picnic for the heroics. And I remember thinking to myself that weekend, first weekend off in a long time, that I wasn't sure if I was cut out for this business. And as we rolled into that second phase, and this is probably 18 or 19 years ago, I tried to get my hands on anything I could find regarding to lean construction. At that time, it was just a lot of white papers, a lot of books on lean from the manufacturing world, but slowly started to put in place some of those process and culture from what I was reading onto our project. And we finished the job maybe 2 to 3 days early on that second phase with very little overtime. And what stuck out was the lack of attaboys or phone calls that I received. And at that point, it made me think that, wow, we really reward firefighting in our business. We really reward the long hours and all the sweat to get the job done, and we don't reward planning. And so for me personally, that was when I made a decision that, no, I think I am cut out for this business, but the business needs to change, and I want to do everything I could in my power to help influence some of that change.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Okay, so we're going to start. First question, we actually get to hear from all of you, so this is awesome. So what specific challenges do minority contractors, and we're going to lump small contractors, maybe those new to lean in that category every time I say it. What specific challenges do contractors face, minorities specifically, that lean principles can address effectively? So Felipe, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, so it's actually at an AGC webinar that Henry was hosting some years ago, and there was a lot of chatter in the chat, and I got connected to a couple of contractors that were asking questions and going a little bit deeper, and then ended up, I got connected to a minority excavating contractor, and there we got some follow-on phone calls, some Zoom calls outside of work, and just talking through what it's like to set up a business, understanding the pre-qualification process. And I just started realizing, like, there's a lot that minority contractors don't know because we don't make it obvious, like, how to actually win or how to engage with general contractors. And I started explaining, like, some companies do minority contracting outreach type of programs. And I think that was like the purpose of that call, was to like level set and just show people like what's available. And those types of events, like when I think back, even just 10 years ago, it didn't exist. So I was pretty amazed to see that AGC was doing that, and that it made some connections. And this gentleman, just gonna call him Sam for fond memory reasons, Sam and I stayed connected, and just answering Sam's questions got him over the hump and just reassured his confidence that being his own contractor was the right thing to do. And just some of the fundamentals, like good questions to ask GCs when you're looking at bidding work, and just what's some of the rules of the road, all the unspoken cultural things that people that, like companies like ours that are, you know, more than 30 years old, kind of just know and take for granted. We have that tribal knowledge. Newer companies don't have that knowledge because they're really just getting started, And when you work inside of a business, it's not the same as working on the business. And you don't necessarily see all those invisible cultural things or the norms or the traditional stuff. So I think that was the great thing for me. And then we've taken that at our company even a step further. And sometimes we work in areas like Oakland or East Bay area in San Francisco, and the clients ask the contractors, like, you have to show us how you're engaging with the community and create events where you bring and create open house type things where people come in, just like what AGC was doing with Henry's webinar. So thank you, Henry.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay, Ken, this is for you, but you have an example that kind of has to do with the owner. Like,
To me, lean principles give everybody, including minority trading partners, smaller businesses, like a voice and a seat at the table. And so the example I'll give is the first lean project I did with a client. He told me, I want you to have your major trade partners in the OAC with you. And when I first heard that, like, that's the first time I've ever been asked to have any of our MEP trade partners in our OAC meeting. And so I remember agreeing and then going to our trade partner foreman and saying, listen, like, nobody talk unless I look at you. If I look at you, you talk. Otherwise, no one talk. And it was because I was afraid of what if they say something that they shouldn't say. This is our owner meeting. And what I ended up learning was that, wow, having our experts in the room with a voice to talk about some of the concerns that we had, the issues we had, provided so much more value, not just to us, but to our client. And so I tie that back to, for me, lean principles, especially for smaller businesses that are trying to scale, gives their leaders, either in the field or in the office, an opportunity to have a voice in the room, because lean is about respect for people and about collaboration, trust, accountability, mutual respect. And that's how I would address that.
That's a great segue, because Henry, yours has to do with that mutual respect.
Yeah, exactly. Think about minority contractors. So you got women, people of color, folks who aren't in the inner circle. And how do you get them to feel like they're a part of the team? And so by design, if we use the words mutual respect and respect for people, then yeah, we're gonna have this lean job and everyone's gonna feel welcome. That doesn't normally necessarily happen because you have words on a board. It happens because you choose to say, I wanna be different, and I'm going to take the walls down and include people in conversations, to Felipe's point of how do you help people become a part, teach them, you learn, you want them to win. So you're gonna get involved and you're gonna do things that you probably wouldn't traditionally do. And so when you think about mutual respect and partnering with smaller businesses, you're like the grown-up kid that has lapped around this event 100 times, and you have somebody new that comes in, and we all have to remember we all had a start, and sometimes we can forget because we've been 175 years down the line and we have it down. And when you have somebody who's 2 years in, is it what can you intentionally do to help them win? Because it's going to impact you as well. So I think it's that mutual respect that you bring to the table, and recognize what the principles really look like, what they look like being executed in real time beyond words. And it's like, hey, we're going to have this lean project. Let's sing Kumbaya and hold hands, and we'll navigate through those obstacles that will inherently happen, right? So, and they're going to be watching you. Is this going to be the same old thing? We're talking the talk, but we're really not going to do anything, or I'm actually going to help you win and get over some obstacles. So mutual respect is where that, for me, that's really what helps set the tone, and it's different than just a traditional project.
Okay, so I'm gonna make you dig a little deeper, okay, Henry? So could you explain how lean principles of respect for people, which we just talked about, plays a role in empowering our minority-owned businesses?
Yeah, I think it's again, when you think about respect for people in that relationship, we want to collaborate. That's one of the words that we hear on projects, is that we want to have a collaboration. We have a big room and people are supposed to be sharing ideas. We have this open space that you're discussing the issues in real time and solving problems together. And the role of mutual respect in this kind of setting is you're recognizing that, again, everyone is at a different place and different place in their journey and their understanding even of the language and the contracts. And again, how you approach them with intention, how you actually actualize that respect for people. And I think it's important to even understand, we've done a lot of work and discussions about this, and one of the things we talk about with respect is we can think about the positivity about respect. Let's ask the question, what does it look like when that's not happening? And throw those words on the wall, and let's think about that. And one of the images that we had is a picture of a person with a rock on their back that was really heavy, and they carried it around all day, every day. Imagine that person trying to get their job done, whether it's in the architectural world and design, or it's actually out there executing, installing work. It's heavy, it drags me down, I can't focus, I'm not happy, right? And all these things that factor into our lives, and when we talk about all the factors in regards to suicide and all the mental stress that's in our industry of meeting deadlines, and just how all that compiles and hurts people. And so I think, again, we have an opportunity to say, if we're really gonna say and surround ourselves around respect for people and what that means, whether it's minority contractors or just people you work with every day, it should look and feel different. And it has to get beyond the words, and it takes work for us to do that. And the work is not easy. It's not about learning soft skills. That's great, but soft skills are not soft. They're absolutely hard. Just ask any guy, right? And so recognizing how to communicate and really understand how that back and forth language has to happen respectfully.
Awesome. So how many people in the room have experienced, know lean construction, or been in a space where the conversations are happening? Raise your hand. Okay, so not everybody's hand went up. So just really quick, when we talk about lean construction and just this, us and our experience, it's respect for people. We've hit on that a little bit, but it's also how do we add value and how do we eliminate waste? Those are the three things that the four of us really focus on in our industry. So next question is, how does lean construction's focus on adding value and reducing waste translate into improved outcomes for minority contractors? And Keyan, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot from firms that are trying to start their lean journey. And usually it's coming from the context of they want to talk about on the job site. And I'd rather not start there. I'd rather talk organizationally through your firm. And for an example, at Skiles Group, years ago when I first got there, I went and sat down with one of our project managers and said, describe to me our billing process here. And so they walked me through our trades send in billings by the 25th, and we put it in this software, and as long as we get it out by the 1st, then to our client, that's the process. Then the next project manager that I asked said, we get our billings in by the 1st, and we get them in through Excel, and then we send them to an architect, and then we wait for the architect to send the client. As long as it's in by the 5th, that's how it works. And so by the time I got to third project manager, what I recognized was we didn't have a process. And so I brought our team in, we started whiteboarding and building a value map of what our current state was on how we did billings. And then we started looking at a lot of the inconsistencies, and then we built another value map of what our future state could look like in a way that could be more efficient. And I recommend that because once you start finding things, little non-processed things that are not efficient, and you get them more efficient, then people immediately see that value. Jennifer said lean's all about creating value and trying to reduce the waste. And so the next thing we hit was, we noticed that it was taking us almost 16 days to get our trade partners' work orders executed. And what was happening was we had to print out their work order, we had to give it to had to go to an admin, the admin had to give it to an exec, they had to initial it, had to get scanned in, emailed to a trade. When it came back, it had to get reprinted, put on an exec's desk to get signed, then scanned back in, and then just go into DocuSign, and this was years ago, ended up taking that 16 days down to 4 days and created so much less work. And so there's a book by Paul Akers that a lot of us in the lean community are familiar with. It's called Fix What Bugs You. It's a very simple read, but it's just about trying to find those inefficiencies within your company. And then when you find them and people start really seeing the value it's bringing, then it's almost infectious and it'll be throughout your whole company.
Awesome, thank you. Henry, your example, a little bit the same, shining a light on those inefficiencies.
Yeah. Again, about helping people win and understanding what do your processes look like and how do you begin to help them be more intentional around removing that waste. So you take a company that, because at the end of the day, it's about being competitive. And so we want folks that have good numbers, right? And how do you improve those inefficiencies is by understanding your processes and then executing them in a way that is more streamlined. And so it's having those conversations with them about, or even we've done some job walks with some companies we partnered with just to see how they prefab or if they do prefab. And inserting their hangers in the deck and all those kind of things, and just walking with them to say, hey, this is cool. Here's a way that you can improve this process. And then getting them to think, like you would do to anyone, to think about how you would remove waste and what does waste look like on your job. And just how Keyan talking about what you're doing in the design stage and your processes, that same execution in the field, talking with your teams and just giving them tips. And then to the point where they begin to understand and become self-sufficient, and it's just this whole journey of continuously improving.
And so we're doing a lot of talking up here, and probably the audience would like to know, but give me an example of where it worked, like where you can tell me there was value added. And so next question is, what are some real world examples where lean practices have directly contributed to the growth and profitability of a minority-owned construction business? Very specific. Henry, you want to start with that?
Yeah, so we had a project actually in the Mid-Atlantic, and we have a gentleman, his name is Eric Washington, and he goes out to, before we even get the job or the job starts, he's building relationships with minority contractors that are out in different areas, and just to see who they are. He introduce himself, our company, the project, their capabilities, and being able to build a relationship with them and build some trust. And so then when the project is started, now we can identify what particular scope setup one of their contractors had. As a woman-owned business, and she had maybe 8 or 10 employees. And this is a huge project. So what are we gonna do? We're not gonna give you a $20 million project so you can fail. We're gonna carve it out, but the way you do that is we will, again, establish a relationship, invite somebody into our office, look at some drawings. What can we carve out that works for you so you can be successful? And so this person started a project in like a couple of floors that they're working on for us, and then they finish that project, they get some reps in, they build some confidence, they understand our process, they trust our relationship, and then they get the next project. And they can hire more people. So that's a real story that we have where we actually helped a company grow and build a relationship. And there was a time that she was getting in trouble and thinking, I'm gonna go out of business. And we have to understand what those issues are so we can address them in real time. But it was about the trust that was built in the beginning where, again, we're not looking to give them a job and see what happens. No, we want to give you a job and actually help partner with you so that we can be successful together. Because at the end of the day, if that's what we do, that's what people expect. And that's, again, it's like going around the circle, doing the same thing and expecting a different result and expecting people to embrace that process doesn't work. So those are some couple of examples of seeing a company grow, increase their labor, and build a relationship with us.
Okay, so I'm going to go off script a little bit, so Felipe, you have to wait, then you can answer. So Henry, if we have people in the room that would love to be a part of that, and they don't know if the contractor is in a place like y'all are, like what are some things maybe as they're going in pursuing work that they could be looking for?
Yeah, I think, again, it's all about the relationship. Who's inviting you to the room, what kind of conversations you're having, trust your gut, do your research, and understand, are they progressive in the sense of what kind of work are they pursuing? So some contracts aren't set up to be successful. I think there was a conversation we had about the defaults that are happening around the country with contractors. And some of those contracts are just set up just to not work. But we need work, so we go and do the job, and then we wonder why it's in the red at the end. And so I would say do your homework, and who is your point of contact? And are they engaging with you? Are they allowing you to see behind the curtain of some of the details so that you can make a good decision about your company? And then are they empathetic to your business? Meaning that we feel like we can learn from anyone. Southlands is a mega contractor, but we understand that we don't know everything, and we learn different nuances and challenges by partnering with smaller businesses and saying, oh, we never thought about this. And it's a two-way exchange. Whether you have a big piece of the pie and there's a small piece of the pie, it's still, and so I would say, again, making sure that you have a point of contact that you trust, they're inviting you in early, you're able to make good decisions for your company, they respect your business in such a way that they're not gonna overwhelm you, and they're gonna be sensitive to the challenges that you have and say, hey, I'm the marketing person, I'm the designer, I'm the BD person, I got 3 people and you have 300. There's a difference in how we scale this and how it works, and if they're not empathetic to that, then it's probably not a good relationship.
Awesome, thank you. Felipe, so do you have a real world example that maybe you want to share?
I do. We do a lot of work in the Bay Area, like I mentioned earlier. And one of the things we do, especially when we're in Oakland, is we create these events, minority-owned businesses to come in and small businesses. We brand them as like workshops, but it's an exchange, just like Henry was talking about, where people can come in, any type of business, no matter how big or small, and they can engage with us in like a teaching, learning environment where we're open. We're doing some relational things. We're just getting to know who's here in this marketplace in a bigger venue with their peers, because people actually like to learn with peers. It's like one of those magical things rather than just going to a website. And we obviously have websites for minority businesses to engage with our company as well. But in these little get-togethers, we can do a little bit of teaching, show some things that'll help them, give them value for their businesses. We're investing in people that we may or may not work with. And that's something that's very strange for a lot of contractors. Like, we're just putting out something and maybe it pays back, maybe it doesn't, right? We're gambling on doing the right thing and elevating this entire area because we want to be a community builder. So the principle for us and respect for people is being a community builder and building with the community, not just inside the community. And so in those events, sometimes we get to teach about lean too, which is like fun. And I like to do that. And in those things, we also, like Henry said, you can understand what people are facing and what are some of the challenges. And can we partner people together? Can we make connections? It's like networking for them. So we always brand it as a networking event and a learning event because both of those things together are very important.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so next question. Are there any specific tools or techniques within lean construction that have proven particularly effective for minority contractors? And I'm going to push y'all a little bit and ask you, like, we get caught up sometimes in person versus virtual. So how have you been able to apply these concepts in both environments? So Keyan, you want to get started with that one?
Yeah, I think usually when people think about lean, they're wanting to start talking about pull planning or some component of the last planner system. But for me, that's not the best place to start because a lot of times, especially for our small business owners, our minority run businesses, again, they're not even given an opportunity to have a voice in the room. And if you expect them to come in and immediately start planning on how to schedule the project without building a culture of trust and accountability and mutual respect, they're not going to know where to start. And I feel like the daily huddle is the best place to start. On every one of our projects, every morning, 15, 20 minutes, we do a daily huddle. If it's your first time doing a daily huddle, really, you're asking everybody in the room to talk about what they're working on, where they're working, what's in their way. And a better way to start that is almost by doing some icebreakers in the beginning and getting people on the job site comfortable with sharing about themselves. And what you'll find is that as people start talking about themselves or what sports teams they like or what sports their children play, there's tethers that start to create between the professionals in the room. And I promise you, it's really difficult for an electrician to go bust a hole in the wall to put their J-box in because they missed it when they know the drywall foreman. They have to see him every morning. They know that they have daughters that are on rival dance teams, whatever it could be. Like, as those relationships grow, then it really builds that right culture to slowly start implementing more lean tools and processes on the job site that are going to get you more value.
Awesome, thank you, Ken. Henry, you have another example.
Yeah, excuse me. I think the big room is a place where ideally everyone is being transparent and able to talk and deal with issues in real time. And so again, having a minority contractor, your partner in that room where you're able to be aware of the decisions that are being made about you, or you're able to interject about the decisions being made. No matter how small you are, and we don't realize how important the smaller contractor is until what they need to deliver is not happening. And suddenly they become the most important contractor in the room. And so how many stories have you heard about the one that did not get included, that seemed, because their scope is so seemingly insignificant, and then they're not there when you need them to be there? I was talking to a gentleman yesterday about that, and they deal with mitigation and water mitigation and all those issues, and when somebody breaks a sprinkler. Was that person part of the plan if something were to happen on the job site in the early stages of the job? Maybe you don't want them to be there, you don't, but you need them to be part of the team, so when this does happen, if it does, you got a plan. And so having those people in the big room, being able to bring their perspectives, because typically they're not necessarily top of mind. And so the big room can be a great way for people to engage and say, hey, what about this? You didn't think about this part of the job because that's their scope and it seems this small to you. And again, when that thing is not delivered, nobody's at third base and the ball goes there. Nobody to catch it. And so we got to make sure we're including all the teams, and the big room is a great way to get those folks involved.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next question. What are some common misconceptions about lean construction that may hinder its adoption among minority contractors? And Henry hit earlier on how do you build those relationships? How do you know the right contractor that you want to work for? And I know, Keyan, you and I have a lot of similarities when it comes to the projects we pursue and how that kind of can go into some of those common misconceptions.
Yeah, I would think at first a lot of small businesses, minority-run companies, when they've talked to me about it, they're like, no one's asking us to do lean construction. And when we start talking about their work mix, what I find out is a lot of their work mix is hard bid. And what's tough about doing hard bid work in our industry is that, especially if you're on the general contractor side, is that your client is really looking at you as a commodity. And so you're really being chosen based off of your price, not the value you can bring. And so my conversation, and what Jennifer was mentioning, is like our firms rarely do hard bid work. Most of our work is negotiated, or select list, RFP work. But the reason it's like that is because we've focused on this operational excellence and this culture to be able to provide value at a level where our clients recognize that value and on their complex projects are willing to pay for that value. And going back to where I was talking about earlier, when you start working on your processes and you start working on trying to implement some of these lean tools like having daily huddles, maybe having daily huddles within your leadership team to where you're passing along information and you really start looking at what it is that your firm has that it's unique, and you start marketing those uniques to show your value, then it can lead you to the right opportunities to get involved in these projects that are lean projects that are way more collaborative to where you can have a seat at the table. But it really starts with working internally within your firm to make your firm a lean firm. And that's both on the process side and the culture side.
Thank you. So Felipe, another common misconception that all of us have heard is lean costs more money. Can you address that a little bit?
Yeah, so like just to piggyback off of Keyan, the first time I got started with lean was on a hard bid project. It was a design bid build traditional project where we had gotten really behind, and we were facing probably a 6-month delay where we're going to be that late with liquidated damages north of $1 million on a project that was only $72 million in total project cost for construction. And I realized we brought in a consultant for 2 days, and we got started with pull planning and recovery schedule mode. And what I saw was that everything that was happening was free. Like we were behind, but like talking to people, the sheet metal company or the plumber, and asking about, is this set of things we're doing the best order? And just shutting up our superintendent for a second so that we can hear that there's other ways to do things in different sequences, and then seeing those sequences change dramatically where we were able to deliver back on schedule for free. I mean, we had the cost of the consultant to come, but I mean, the real value was just having a person tell us to stop talking, which was amazing. I don't think we could put a price tag on the silence of some of the so for all the general contractors out there, just shut up sometimes and watch the magic happen. But there's some process things. Most of the lean things are free and in the public domain. I've got my buddy Marianne out there in the audience. LCI has tons of free information, and there's other sources as well. Most of the things that we're playing with are over 100 years old. The daily huddle can be traced back to ancient Greece, right? And we just don't have the history. It probably goes back to Egypt, but we just don't know. And like a lot of these processes are out there, people don't know to reach to apply it because we're so busy working on deadlines or these different things. So the only cost that you're gonna spend is your time. And you'll only be as good as how you invest in yourself. And I tell people all the time, respect for people's got to start with you and how you value yourself. If you don't put the time in yourself to learn and to practice what you learn, you're never going to get better. And then at some point, it might make sense to make an investment, pay for a course, or pay for a training, or come to a conference. But just coming here and being in the audience is not going to get you any kind of movement in your company or on your projects. You've got to go practice it. So go practice it. It's free. Practice is free.
Awesome. Okay. So I know I lead implementation across all of our projects, 96 projects, 56 project teams. Like I lead that. And some of the comments I get back as we were rolling this out 7 or 8 years ago was, yeah, Jennifer, but my job's only $2 million, or my job's only $500,000, or I'm in this geographic area, or yeah, but I don't have that experience. So Henry, do you want to hit on the misconception of, oh, it doesn't apply?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that you hear a lot. And again, it's another excuse that this doesn't apply to me, size or whatever. The one thing that I would say about lean that bugs me is that I think sometimes some of the practitioners, and maybe even including myself at some point, is that it may come across like it's a bolt-on kind of thing you got to go get and do and figure out how to make it work when it's a square peg going in this round hole. It's like you can give people so many reasons why it doesn't work by just how you approach the conversation. And so you got to make sure that this is not a bolt-on thing. So ask some challenging questions like, don't you want your day to go better? Would you like to actually install more work? Would you like to leave work not stressed out as much? Do you like to feel like you did more value, brought more value to your team? Would you feel like you're collaborating, and would you think collaborating would actually remove waste and help you improve your daily goals? And of course, those questions, unless you got the wrong people on the team, they're gonna say, yes, that would be helpful to me. And so even the lean buzzword, just sometimes using lean scares people. And they're like, what are we about to do? Nope, I know what this is. Nope, put the cross up, back up, not that lean stuff. And so we gotta be very practical. There's lots of like books this thick about lean. Great, but don't expect your superintendent to read it, right? So you better give them the Reader's Digest version and help them understand the main points that are in that book, because they're not gonna read the book. And they're not gonna go around saying, that's lean stuff. It's really talk about what that lean stuff means in my day. If I'm making a Y branch as a sheet metal worker, what are your steps? Okay, can we remove some of those steps by doing X, challenging them? No, because we've always done this like this. Why not? Let's dig a little bit deeper. So you help them to really make it practical, because it can seem so scientific and academic. And again, nope, back up. You're doing that lean stuff again, right? So really make it practical, because yeah, you're gonna get resistance. This doesn't apply to me. Have a list of stuff that can tell you why. So you wanna make sure you're strategic when you're talking to the people who do the work, because otherwise they're gonna come at you with just that resistance. And so being very practical is key.
Awesome. So we're on the last couple questions. I want to add to what Henry said is watch what's going on around you. So we think, and the biggest obstacle I've seen is we've always done it this way. We've had success. And then you come in and say, but there's a better way. And one observation that I saw, I was on a job site and we were observing one of our workers tying rebar. Okay, it happens on all of our projects. We're just observing. No talking, no give them corrections, no tell them what they need to be doing. We're just going to sit here for 5 minutes, and we're stand here and we're going to watch them tying rebar. And then when we got back, we reevaluated, okay, what did we just see? And the superintendent, not the on-site superintendent, one that was visiting, he said, like he was using a screwdriver to tighten it. He goes, there's a tool out there that does that. And then when they went and we talked to him, he said, this is the way I was taught. That doesn't mean it's the right way. It's being able to look and see that, yes, this is the way they've always done it. And yes, they may have had success, but just like yesterday, if you were in our presentation, Felipe learned how to shoot a free throw the wrong way.
Yeah.
So I can't get mad at him because he's shooting the free throw the wrong way if I'm not willing to help correct him to do it the right way. And it's that kind of thing. Are we willing to take those steps to help people do it a different way? So last couple questions. What steps can minority contractors take to effectively overcome resistance to change when implementing lean practices? So Keyan, you want to address that?
Yeah, I'm going to answer it a different way. I just think our whole industry is changing right now. And if you're in our business, you're noticing that because your construction documents aren't as coordinated as they used to be. We don't have enough skilled craftspeople that we used to have. Technology has really started to take force, and if you're not keeping up with that, you could get left behind. And unfortunately, for those that are resistant or don't like change, it's here. And in my opinion, try not to look at it as a complete change. Look at it as like a software update. Every once in a while, you got to update and reboot, right? Mm-hmm. So you learn some new tools, you learn some new information, you tweak the way you've been doing things to adjust. And I really feel like any business, including our small business owners or minority businesses, the sooner you recognize that you can look to continuously improve your work, as soon as you recognize that there's waste everywhere on the job site, in your processes in the office, how can you adjust that waste to add more value? And then if you start coming from that mindset of respect for people, I think the chances of running through this wave and being relevant and around in the next 10 years, lean methodologies and culture will give you that success. Because I will tell you, you look at our generation, the 8 and 11-year-olds right now, think about what they've been through and what they're going to expect. And in just 10 years, 18 and 21 years old, they're going to be coming into our workforce. What is going to be their expectation when they come into our workforce? And we got to be prepared for that.
Awesome. Okay, so Henry, can you help connect how overcoming resistance has to do with trust?
When you specifically talk about minority firms in this industry, it's been a historically untrusting environment. You approach the table very skeptically, and there's this trust that just permeates in the atmosphere, right? And you're just waiting to see how you're going to get me. And that's the relationship, unfortunately. So when you talk about lean, and lean, again, revolves around respect for people, building trust, collaboration, having these teams work together, and it all sounds wonderful. But I come to the table with my eyes like, I don't know about you, right? Because I don't. Because what you've done to me, and I'm not saying anyone in this room or any particular anyone, it's just what the industry has done is damage a lot of people, right? So it's hard to break that cycle. And so we're asking people to trust and build a culture. And there's nothing like a really dynamic lean project. When you've been on one, you're like, when can I get on that next one? And I've seen 30-year veterans saying, why do I got to get on this project? And then when it was over, Henry, where's the next one? Because their experience was amazing. And so building trust, it's gonna take some risk, right? You're gonna have to take some risk. And that's why I say, have a point of contact for yourself that you trust, whoever that person is that you're dealing business with, build that relationship with them. So when things go awry, you have somebody that you can go to that you trust. And that trust means they're gonna do something for you to help you win and not fall apart. And bit by bit, we can get better doing that and build more trust, make more money, and have a team that actually celebrates the work that we're getting done and solve those issues and problems that do happen on projects, but in a way that doesn't tear people down.
So I want to add to that because I don't know if we have a lack of workforce. We have some areas that we're struggling to get people, and all four of us have realized and experienced that there are trades out there that get to make a choice on where they work. They get to go, I want to work for them, I do not want to go there. And if you're creating that environment that Henry just talked about, where they are respected and we do listen to them and they do have a voice, guess what? They're going to choose to come to our projects. And they're not going to go somewhere else, and they're not going to bid that work, and they're not going to sacrifice themselves for that. And in this industry, because we have that lack of workforce right now, that they get to pick where they go. And so we want to make sure we're creating those environments. And if you're on the other side of that, find those places that will do those things for you. Okay, last question. How can you share some stories of how lean principles have led to improved client satisfaction and repeat business for minority contractors? So, Keyan, I know you from the client perspective. You have an example?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with Methodist Health System in North Texas, and they have their own, they're a private institution, but they have their own initiatives around bringing in diverse companies to work with them. And so a couple years ago, we always had beaten their goals of 30 or 40%. Any bar they hit, we wanted to do better than that. But bigger picture for us is that if we want more diverse companies in our industry that are strong companies. We need more diverse people coming into our industry. And for Methodist Client, we started doing internships and scholarships for students either in craft school or community college that are trying to get into the construction industry. And every time we've done it, it's worked out so well for us. We feel like we're tapping into all the big companies are going to the big universities and they think they're getting the top talent, but we really feel like we got the secret sauce, and some of those interns are going to lead to hires, and our client loves it, but selfishly, I feel like for us, it's been a huge benefit as well.
Awesome. Felipe, yours is a little like outreach events, something like that?
Yeah, we've done some outreach events with some local areas where we have the workforce development, like City Build that Henry's been involved in, as well as Cypress Mandela. And we've hired, I actually had the privilege of going to a presentation where a 19-year-old hire from one of these programs had this amazing PowerPoint showing like what they learned on the job. And you could instantly see like how they're plugged in with the supervision of this large project. It's a huge cancer center. And this 19-year-old, I'm calling him a kid, was like standing at the front of the room in front of a bunch of people like myself, old people like me. I'm the old Felipe in the room. And it was like showing us the things that they learned and observations they had and like how they're helping to influence this. And I thought, what a crazy world it is that now a kid that's just barely older than the kid that I have at home is on this really large, complex job adding value. And if it wasn't for these programs, we never would have had a pipeline to our workforce, because Keyan mentioned a lot of these older companies have these traditional ways that they always do things. And it was because of the insistence from the client. In this case, it was Stanford and Sutter Health that said, this is important to us. And so we want to make this important to you and build with people from this community. So reach out and partner. And we really have done it. And these people have been amazing value adders on our projects that we never would have. And there's almost nothing that's more valuable than having somebody local. Like local in the workforce that's engaged. You're gonna get nuanced things and value adds that you would never have if we would have run that project with people, say, from Sacramento or even as far away as Wisconsin. Having somebody local that understands how the people talk, communicate, and engage and what's important to people in the community is a huge advantage, especially when it comes to like community relations. And when people in the community see that it's like people from the community building the building, you don't get the neighbor complaints, you don't get all these other things that can traditionally happen and negatively impact projects, because it's, oh, that's Mary's kid that's, working on that job, or that's Bobby who we grew up with that's building this job, and they're seeing all the things that are happening. They're really connected, and now we're really a part of this interconnected web of changing how the community grows up.
Awesome, thank you. Henry, collaboration, got a story about that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of owners, and I'm sitting here thinking as I'm listening to you, Felipe, so being in the trade again, 1987, sadly, it took 20 years for me to have a project that was actually one that I felt like this is different. And then I had two after that were the same. I was sitting in a room, and it was a lean meeting with Genentech a few months ago. And the owner was going through the project and talking about the success of the waste we removed and all the different ways we collaborated solving problems. And then I stood up and wanted him to understand, and the team, it's about 40 people in the room, and said, one thing that you did do that you probably is an indirect is you created an environment for people to feel okay about this job. And that's a big win. People felt safe. There was a culture that was established, and you set that tone. So I want you to be mindful of that. Like, all this stuff is important, right? But you're helping people go home to their families where when they park their car in the driveway, they don't have to sit there for 30 minutes to decompress because they're not so, they can go in the house and be with their families and not bring that bad day with them. Those are the things that you are doing, and you may not realize how important that is. One last thing is I'm on a project now with an owner, UC Davis, that has taken it to a level that I haven't seen before, and it's very exciting. And that is, when the RFP that was put out had a scoring system that said, how are you going to effectively engage with us and partner with us and the others on the project to impact minority business partnerships and workforce development? And not just give me some lip service, you have to have an experiential way of saying these things, and it was worth 1,000 points on your score. So give me some BS, so we're gonna read through it, and you're not gonna be on the job, right? So I sing this, and we've been doing this for 12, 13 years, guys. Let's go. This is like what we've been waiting for. And we put together this amazing response to that. We won the job because we got the 1,000 points, right? And all the other stuff you have to do too, but you could not just have a great number, an execution plan, but not a plan on what was important to them. And so they raised the bar to how we're going to engage to a level I have never seen, and we're working through this now. The job is still in design, but the beginning of it and the foundation that's being laid to really make something different and magical happen is in the works. And I can't wait to be able to have a case study and come back and share the results 3 to 5 years from now.
Nice. So thank you. So my example, and then we're going to go to questions for the audiences. It's all about getting engaged in your local organizations. And if you know me, the value of building relationships and connections, because you never know that third degrees of separation from whatever, like you never know who in the room is going to bring up your name. And I sit on the board for our local DFW, National Association of Minority Contractors, been on the board for 8 years. And I'm also on our lean construction board. Okay? Most people go, well, what do they have to do with each other? You're hearing today how important it is that we cross-collaborate. And so we were having a NAMAC, I guess, event. I got to get connected to Candace, who is a very small residential electrical contractor. Family business, her dad was in it, she's in it. She comes in her like her PPE, like she came straight from work, and it was a networking event. And then I got to really get to know her. We will never do business with her. We are a healthcare contractor, okay? But we had an event, a company-wide event to all 1,000 employees, and we were doing Women in Construction Week. And we needed a panel. We had HKS, we had big primes on this panel, and I got to get her connected to the group planning that, and she got to sit on a panel with some national clients, national people, and she got to sit there and kill it to the point of I felt like she did better than anyone else in the room. And she killed it, but now she's got recognition. Now she gets a little bit of cred. Like we are in rooms where we can help make that happen, and we've got to push that. So I know we're like wrapping up right now, but I do want to open it up to the audience. We have a couple more minutes if you have any questions specifically for the people on the stage. Yes.
Y'all talked a lot about trust, and to me, the foundation of trust is vulnerability. And vulnerability is probably one of the most difficult things as humans we need to do, right? Do you all have any insights you can share on how people can start to be comfortable with
I know you'll jump in if I don't call you out, so I'm going to let you start with that, and then if they want to chime in.
Yeah, I had to be vulnerable with the leadership on the job. It took me over 9 months to successfully infiltrate and get myself plugged into that project. And it started with me not convincing, but to showing up consistently, being vulnerable with the leadership so they could understand like, where am I coming from? Like, why do I want to be there? And it was not, I had to make it very clear that it's not I got you, you're wrong, or I just want to do better. I just want to do lean stuff for lean stuff's sake. It wasn't that. It was like, what made the difference finally after 9 months was that people are getting hurt on this project. And I've been hurt before. And when I shared my I've been hurt story, I call it my Kevin story. And for people watching this at our company, they know what my Kevin story is. That made the difference. And the project executive said, you're in, it's official. Can you just give me a week to not charge my job? But I came to that project for about 3 weeks for free. I moved stuff and I just gave, and I get paid to go to work, right? It's not like the company wasn't paying me, but I went to this job, no charge to them. And I said, I'm just gonna keep showing up, not because I'm trying to force my way or be a bully, but people are in need and there's things that we can do that the team currently doesn't have the skills to do. And it's not a reflection on you as the leader. And when I showed up that way and shared my Kevin story and was vulnerable with the team and consistently showed up, they said, yes, come in, you're in. But I had to take a risk, be vulnerable, be courageous. So for For all of you listening, it's not easy, but it does take that vulnerability. And it was only because I recognized people were getting hurt. And I just don't want to see people needlessly getting hurt.
Awesome, thank you. And the vulnerability here is the next time that I call on you, I'm going to tell you how much time you have to
Yeah,
respond.
you should.
Okay.
You should.
So thank y'all so much for coming today. I appreciate it.